Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. If you're just joining us, you can put in the chat where you're joining from. I'm joining here from University of Arkansas System, Division of Agriculture Cooperative Extension Service here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and pleased to represent and host these webinars with the Financial Security for All community of practice, a group of extension educators from around the state. We're really pleased to be talking to you about MoneyNosh today. If you would, just imagine a 5-minute game where you can actually drag cash over to pay each of your debts, deciding which one to pay off first, instead of some generic loan balances and APRs. You play using your own info. So at the end of this lesson, you won't have to figure out how to apply generic theories to your unique financial situation because you will already have experienced that. And we know that everyone's personal finance situation is unique. So we're going to learn about the MoneyNosh game and how it's designed to overcome many of those obstacles to adult financial literacy. It combines personalization, behavioral economics, and we're told fun. So we're going to discuss ways we might partner on our current educational programs. It's presented today by Jeff Nagel, MoneyNosh founder and CEO. He spent over 30 years working with financial institutions and helping them market to customers. So here to present how to improve adult financial literacy with a personalized game will be Jeff Nagel. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
So today we're talking about using a game to improve financial literacy. We view this as not a replacement of educational tools that are out there, but more of an addition or an enhancement. So I just kind of want to set the ground, why we're here, and the purpose of this conversation is, how do we get more people interested in financial education? It's not the most interesting topic for a lot of people. Keeping them engaged longer. There's a lot to learn, and it's not a once and done sort of thing. We do tend to forget things. We want to improve their understanding, of course, but we also want them to take actions to improve their finances. So educating them is important, but just that knowledge alone is not going to change their behavior. I know I should stay away from the treats and exercise more often, but just because I know that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. So turning that knowledge into action is very important. I don't know how familiar you are with the PFIN index questions. These are studies that are done on an annual basis, cross-section, both in the United States and overseas. They ask a bunch of questions on financial literacy. And what you can see is that about 4 years ago in 2017, just slightly less than half of the people could answer about half of the questions correctly. And you could see during that time through today, it has not significantly improved. And to me, that says that, look, what we're doing now is important. It's just not moving the needle. So maybe it's time to do something a little bit different. I came across a research paper back in 2011 called the Financial Education Fallacy. And in it, it listed a number of different key obstacles that adults have toward financial literacy. And of them, I looked at and said, well, there's 6 of them that I think we can make a difference. So the first one is that everyone has diverse finances. People are in different financial situations, different stages of their lives. And when they actually go out and try to find solutions, if you think about the last time you Googled something, whether it's about finance or any topic, whether you're trying to purchase something, and you looked at, let's say, the top 5 results, either one, the results were very generic, so they didn't necessarily apply to you, or the first result said do A, and then the second result said do B, and in the end, you still don't know what is the right course of action. Second issue is personal finance is complex. It's hard to understand. There are a lot of issues involved, a lot of variables. Even if you understood a lot of the basics, we need to understand the probabilities of future actions. I make an investment today. What's the probability it's going to meet my retirement needs? The decisions are episodic. So while we make daily decisions on a financial basis that we may or may not realize, I mean, every time we go shopping or not, a lot of major decisions which really affect our finances, like buying a home, refinancing an auto, saving for retirement, paying down debt, those things don't occur that often. And so we educate people, and then now they're very knowledgeable, for argument's sake, about mortgages, but it could be 5, 8 years from now before they actually go ahead and actually use that knowledge. And now we're hoping that they remember what we taught them in that time. And we do know with any education, if you don't use something, you tend to forget it. Another obstacle, it's boring. People don't like spending time on their finances. Even if they do spend time, it's not the most interesting of topics. As Laura said, I've been doing this most of my career. I don't enjoy doing my own finances, and I'll put it off also. So if we're in the field and we're not loving it, how does the average person who really doesn't understand it wanting to go ahead and do that? Then you've got behavioral economic factors. So even though we want to do the right thing, we are hardwired to make bad decisions. And it doesn't help the fact that we have a lot of companies out there, which is what they're trying to do, is market their services using behavioral economics actually to get us to spend more and borrow more. And it's a constant tug and pull on this to try to overcome that. And then finally, unfortunately, in this country, in general, we have poor math skills. So if we can't even figure out how to work percentages, how are we supposed to be able to understand APR and the cost of interest? So our approach to that is we kind of broke it down and looked at all those different objections and obstacles to financial education. The first thing is at a curriculum level. We ask the users information about themselves, and then we assign lessons to them in a curriculum, so that if you own a home, then a home equity loan lesson makes sense. So we get it down to the lesson level, not just curriculum. If you don't own a home equity loan really is not as important. And the reason we don't teach things that are not currently relevant to somebody, it's kind of like if you were planning to go to Italy in 2 years from now, and we had a course on Italian. Not that interested in taking it right now, but let's say about a month to 2 weeks before you're ready to head on the plane, all of a sudden lesson on Italian is very worthwhile to you, and you have more of an interest. And that's the reason, which also gets back down to is we don't just personalize things because it kind of makes sense, but it's also gets down to that boring and interesting, is that if it's not relevant to me, don't show it to me at that time. We also get down to the choice sets. So every time we show a lesson, so here's an example. We've got 2 users, and they kind of put in their profile. They both have a 30-year term mortgage. The first user, they've got 25 to 30 years left. The second one, 10 to 15. So when we go ahead and show them examples as part of the lesson games, for the first one, we'll have random mortgages where there's anywhere from 25 to 30 years left, like 28 years, and a refi offer that's commensurate. The same thing with the one who's got 10 to 15 years left. So the idea is that we're trying wherever possible to show them information that is closest to their situation that we can match. We also show guidance in the sense of in a credit card feature lesson, which I'll show you a demo shortly. I've got 2 users, somebody who doesn't pay in full and somebody who pays in full. If the choice is between a lower APR card and a higher rewards card, the better choice for somebody who doesn't pay in full is going to be a lower APR. And for somebody who does pay in full, it would be the higher rewards. So we're not only basically showing them relevant information, but we're telling them, okay, here's how you should be making a better money choice. So while we also personalize it very specifically for guidance, We also do it for relevancy. So it's a nice to have information. So if we were doing a lesson on mortgages or home buying, if somebody had an income in the $60,000 range, we wouldn't be showing them houses in the $2 million range. Likewise, if somebody had a higher income, we'd be showing them larger houses so that they're closer in what they would normally do in real life, again, to make it more relevant to them. We also looked at how we wanted to present it as a game. We didn't want to just gamify education, where the typical approach is either we ask a user to read something, watch a video, then quiz them afterwards to see whether or not they understood it. Our approach is a little bit different. We go with a learn by doing. So we actually don't even give any information up front. We throw people into the examples. So in this case, we actually have them, if we want them to save money, they'll physically drag money into a savings piggy bank. The idea is to mimic real life actions as close as possible, so it doesn't feel like a quiz. It feels like choices they would make in real life. We integrate the learning. So as I said, we don't provide the learning up front. We have them learn while they're taking the lesson, while they're making choices. And then every time they make a choice, whether it's right or wrong, we give personalized guidance after the choice. So here, the advisor, which they get to pick, is giving them an explanation that's very specific to whatever that lesson round information was. And then finally, the lessons are 3 to 5 minutes in length. We know people don't have a long attention span. We designed this mobile first. It's actually browser based. This way that somebody could do this at any point in time, whether it's on their phone, a tablet, certainly on a desktop or laptop, but keeping it short to hold their attention span. And it needs to be simple. So if you watched there are a lot of great videos and articles out there on different topics. If you picked any one of those topics, we actually might break them into six or 8 different lessons, because we take concepts and we break them into as small a piece as possible so that the lesson would focus on that single concept. Then we build them together. So once they learn all the individual pieces, we tie it together. As I said, people have poor math skills. Whenever we show numbers, we try to use simplified numbers. We do the math for them for whenever possible, because we don't want people getting bogged down trying to figure things out on a math perspective versus understanding the concepts. Everything has a prerequisite. So unlike some curriculums where you could just jump around from one to the other, we walk somebody down a path. And that's important because our concepts and lessons are very small. They need to have done the prerequisites. So before they would ever be able to take a lesson on credit scores, they had to have taken a lesson on credit reports, because one always builds on the other. We use adaptive learning. So the choices get harder as the users show proficiency. Because the lessons are so small, they're short in length, we get very small concepts. There was actually no way to quiz people in advance to find out what's your knowledge on credit cards, what's your knowledge on investing, what's your knowledge on borrowing. Even if somebody had a broad knowledge, there are always aspects of finance that they may not know. So we can never quiz them enough to kind of have them quiz out so that they don't have to take a lesson. Having done this for years, I still continually come across new things that I never know about areas of finance that I thought I pretty much had well covered. And by keeping the lessons short, even if they're knowledgeable about the topic, they'll stay engaged. And by making it harder, in many cases, as they go ahead and show that they understand something, it keeps them engaged longer. We like to use real life action items so that, as we said up front, is educating them is important, but if all we did was educate them, well, that's a great thing. We want them to actually change their behavior. So when it's relevant, so in this case, if it's a lesson on credit reports, at the end of the lesson, one of the action items would be request a credit report. We'd walk them through how they go about doing that. Then once they've indicated that they've done that, we go to the next small action step. Add a reminder to request your report every 4 months, so that we're breaking the action items to very small pieces so that it's easy for them to do. Some action items certainly take longer. It could be looking up your APR on your mortgage statement or credit card, your outstanding balance, and then we ask them to come back to the game and jot that down. And the reason we do that is twofold. One is we are trying to get some information to see whether or not they're actually doing this. Now, somebody could obviously make it up. There's no benefit for them to doing it. They're not getting paid and so forth. But we're trying to close the loop, and it also tells us, okay, you've done that. Now let's go and do the next action item. So why don't we go take a look at a demo of a single lesson. And the lesson starts out basically on how to choose a credit card. So I'm going to switch over to the live demo. So this is a curriculum. They're getting out of debt. That's the curriculum. It kind of tells them where they are in the lesson. They've done 3 out of 10. This is how to choose the best credit card. Very short about what they will learn in this lesson. If they want to learn more about this topic, definitions, more information, they can click on the more about this topic or the help button. Each lesson has very specific help and topic information, or they could do it throughout the lesson. Very briefly about how to play. Each lesson, when it's relevant, we ask them only up to 3 questions that is about their personal financial situation so that we could personalize it. And we only ask it if it's important for the lesson. And as you can see, everything is self-reported. The reason we do that is because, number one, from a privacy issue. We're not checking to see if what they tell us is true or not. They can make everything up. If they do make things up, it's unfortunate they won't learn as much because the advice and all of the lessons are tied to whatever information they tell us. So if they say they always pay their balance in full and they don't really, all the choices we present them and the guidance is based on somebody who always pays it in full. So I'm just going to say I often pay it. I've got a fair credit score and spend about $1,000 a month. So at the beginning of each lesson, the first thing we do is we have an example and show them what they need to do. In this one, Tom's monthly credit card charge is about $1,000. So we use their information to apply it to a third party, so it doesn't feel as personal to them, although it's their information. So now I've got 2 cards, and you'll see it starts out that the card on the left has they both have 2 features, and the one on the left is definitely better than the one on the right for both features. It's got higher rewards points and a higher sign-up bonus. So I will drag that into the wallet. And now the feedback I get is very specific to the information that we just presented on the 2 cards. We rotate the characters, so it's with made-up names, so that, with a cross-section of images. And now the next one is, again, the card on the left is better than the card on the right with both features. So I drag it into the wallet. I got it right. So now adaptive learning comes into play. And now that I've gotten 2 in a row, each lesson is set up differently. It says, okay, now we go to a little bit more difficult. So the card on the left has a much higher sign-up bonus, 50,000 points versus 20,000 for the right, but it has lower rewards points on an ongoing basis, 1.5 to 2.5. So what this basically now is, it's not just an obvious choice of, oh, everything is better on one card. Now they need to make a decision. So let's see what happens if I just pick the one on the left. So I got this wrong, and the advisor's explaining why it's wrong, because ongoing rewards are likely to benefit more than a one-time deal. So again, we rotate the scenarios. Carrie often pays a credit card balance in full, but she doesn't always. So in this case, even though the card on the right has a no annual fee, it's got a much higher APR. And so again, it's very specific and personalized to the individual player. And it goes through 10. I won't continue on, but that's basically how that particular lesson works. So I'll show you one more demo, which this one is a little bit more complex, and I've taped it because it's done a little bit different. But for this one is the debt snowball and avalanche methods, where the debt snowball is when you have a number of debts, you pay off the smallest balance first, versus the avalanche method, where you're paying off the highest APR first. So we teach one and then the other. So in this case, we have 3 debts. The user would tell us some information about their debts. And now, instead of just dragging between 2 choices, they've got to figure out how they're going to make payments every single month on these debts. So they make payments, they get some feedback, and then so it doesn't become a little onerous of having to pay it off over years and constantly clicking. They're basically learning how they should pay off the debts from a debt snowball perspective, and then they'll go ahead and do it from a avalanche method. So in this case, now they did it incorrectly, in which case we give them the option of playing it again and explain them why it was incorrect. We also make the solution focused. And the rationale behind that is that people, like in all marketing cases, they want to solve a problem, and you could view it as a problem or a goal. I want to get out of debt, buy a home, buy a car, saving for college, paying for college, retirement, saving for emergencies. We also look at it from the perspective of life stage. You've got a change in life stage. I just had a new baby, just got married, divorced, bought a house. I've already bought a house. What do I do? The idea being that we create these curriculum tied to different situations that they're looking for, and then personalize it beyond that. To give you just some smattering of different lessons and how they kind of look, the top left, what makes up your credit score. If we take a look on the, let's say the bottom left, should somebody take out a fixed versus a variable APR arm? How do you calculate your home equity? The one next to it, refinancing a mortgage, showing somebody their current mortgage and then an example of an alternative mortgage for a refi offer. These are all made up. We don't use affiliate marketing. We don't tie in, promote any other company. And the main reason for doing that is our goal is to be unbiased in giving advice and help. So where I'll leave it at this point is, and the whole purpose is, thinking about ways that we might work together. One of which is including MoneyNosh as part of the education programs for purposes of the study. The idea being there is, does this really make a difference? Taking a random sample, some of them would actually do the MoneyNosh game in addition to whatever educational you're using, and then the other group wouldn't get it. Then we kind of look at what are the changes in financial literacy before and after. What are their changes in behavior? A second thing is reviewing and providing content for single short lesson topic. We have a lot of topics, and as you can imagine, because we personalize these to individuals, it starts to get very complex in terms of making sure that, okay, this set of choices, is this a correct set of choices for this user type based on their financial situation? If it is the feedback correct for this? What should that feedback be? And in terms of reviewing or providing content, either actually providing content, helping out with that, or if you just like coming up with game ideas and activities, we've got a bunch of activity lesson topics for which I've honestly racked my brain and can't seem to find an easy way to make it into a lesson that works well for the user. And then finally, helping us improve the game. If you just want to take a look at it and want to be a part of it as we're going along, being a beta tester every so often, making recommendations of what we could do to make it better, that's really our goal. Our intent with this, we're not using outside funding, is to get this into as many people's hands as possible, to provide it to nonprofits for their constituents, pretty much at a nominal cost to the nonprofit to cover the expense of maintaining it, and in order to enable us to continue to add more lessons and improve it, we would do this as a financial wellness benefit for corporations to offer their employees. And in doing it with this methodology, we can be unbiased in terms of how we go about it.
Thanks everyone so much for joining us today.
Thank you.